So earlier this week, just a couple days ago, I was sitting around in the middle of the night. I got an email saying, "Oh, you can get a free upgrade on Slack for 14 days." And so I went to Slack and looked at it. It says, "Yeah, click here." It says, "No credit card required. Click here to start your free trial." And I did this on Twin City Robotics about a month ago. There, I got a message saying, "Oh, you are now on a free trial on your Slack channel." And one of the options it said you can now see all your messages, not the ones that are that are only 30 days or 90 days old when they went to that feature. So I thought, oh, that gave me a place to experiment. So I went to the on the Twin City Robotics one. First, I asked, did somebody request this? And nobody fessed up to that. So I didn't know if this was ever going to happen on the lawn tractor automation group. But anyway, on the Twin City Robotics one, it popped up and said, "We are on a free trial." And I went through the trouble to go through and do a backup. And I backed it up all the way to day one and ran it through that converter. And sure enough, it does work. It gives you all the messages all the way back, which we could do that before, but we lost all the images. And now it looks like it saved all the images also for Twin City Robotics. So when this popped up, I thought, well, I've been waiting for that. And I clicked on it and said, yes, yes, I want that trial. And they're very cryptic about it, but I think it says now every member is on the free trial. You can experiment with anything you want that's out there. They got things, something called canvases, and you got huddles, and you got all kinds of strange things that I don't want in the first place. I just wanted the ability to get all the archived messages. So I went through, and after I signed up for it, then I said create the backup. And the first thing it says is, "Oh, this is a large group. This may take days to back this up." And I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And about 2 minutes later, said, "Okay, I'm done." So I went ahead and downloaded that to my computer, and then I turned around, uploaded that to my website, so it is available out there. And so now I gotta go to the trouble. I gotta fire up my other computer here and put the stuff in and see if it will convert. And if it does, then when I get around to it, if I decide to get around to it, I'll take that, upload that to my website and provide links for that. So you can just click on it and it basically looks like the Slack channel. If you're running it live, you could actually go out to the left-hand side of Slack and select a channel, and it will automatically switch to the other channels. But if you're not running it live, what I do is I fire it up and I can it creates an HTML page of an entire channel, and I can dig through it and do whatever I want. So if I say save as HTML, it saves that out as a file. And then if I open that later, it comes up and shows me that channel. And it seems to work well enough that, just the fact you want to go back to day one and see what was happening, and you can search that. And I assume you can search it. I don't know if that's going to work or not. So anyway, that happened, and you got like 13 more days if you want to poke around at this stuff and see what it is. It's all quite cryptic, and all the stuff they try to entice me with, none of it I want to use, but they think that's the way to go. And it simply gave me a way to get all the messages. So I did that, and maybe I'll get back to you next week and tell you what my experience was and all this stuff. Or I might post to the Slack channel if I get the stuff working and uploaded, and then you can go look at it at that point. So it will just automatically expire in 13 days. The one on Twin City Robotics just expired today, and there's nothing special about it. It says, "Oh, you didn't upgrade, so we're going to go back, and here's all the features you're losing," which, again, I didn't want any of those. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. And so I'll just turn it over to Al, because that's all I had to say about that.
Two things. Do you recall what are the features of upgrading and the cost,
Uh,
or
I
any features that were interesting at all?
there's something called canvases, and I think it's kind of like, it might be like that thing that Miro page that you and Bob run. I don't know if that's what it is, or somehow you can share pictures or something. And there's something about they'll let you fire up a video call with somebody else if you want to. And to me, I didn't see the point. Yeah, as I said, none of it was interesting enough to me to even care about. And right now they're just trying to throw it all at you, trying to sucker you into paying more money for the whole thing. And I just personally, I didn't care. You know, the fact that we can just come on here, start it up, and um, I was gonna say, I'm now I'm mixing Zoom and Slack in my mind, but no, on Slack, it exchanges messages, and that's all I really care about. So I remember back in the old days when they first started Slack, or when we first started looking at Slack, they wanted a lot of money to upgrade to this pro plan. And I couldn't tell if every member had to pay this or just one person pays it. But at the time, you know, they had even less stuff back then. So I didn't care. I've never looked into any of it. So I don't know if it's worth looking at or not. But anyway,
And
as far,
then,
you know, you're saying you didn't know if you should click through on this stuff. Well, it is turned on. When I said, yes, start the free trial, you know, it's just open for anybody who wants to do whatever is there. So, and I think everybody got a message like that one you showed on Slack that said, it says, oh, so it says about, oh, your group is now on a free trial, and that it listed some things right there that you could do. And I assume everybody got that. And if not, if you go to the Slack channel over on the up in the upper left-hand corner, it says you are on free trial for X number of days. And if you click there, it'll explain more stuff about what's there that you didn't know about before. So you can go dig through that if anybody's got an interest in that stuff.
and I know you've done it before. Do you mind pulling up your website where um, is sort of the portal to all that history?
What you want to see the directory, or you want to see
Yeah,
the actual?
just so we capture what that looks like again.
Okay, let me see if I can start this. Is this what I want? No, that's probably not what I want. Yeah, that'll work. And the links to all this stuff is at the bottom of every video. It says here's links, and it has a link out to my page, out to this directory. So I'll just pull it up. Well, that's going to be real handy. This computer doesn't remember that was there, so let me say end. A little keyboard, I got to do a function end. ROS Agriculture. File not found. Well, let's see. How can I do this? If I go here. And if I go here, if I go to the here, let me bring this up. Pull this over here. I probably shouldn't do this live, but no, I'm not going to do it live.
I'm sorry, I thought it was as easy as clicking on a URL.
Well, it would be, but I don't have any URLs in front of me here, so it took me by surprise here. So let's go here and say, can I do that? No, that didn't work either. No, I'm confused. Go back here. Do I have to capitalize stuff? Is that my problem? Here, let me just cut and paste this. Copy this. Go to here. Okay, so if I do that, and let's make this bigger and say share that. So the website, which as I say at the bottom of every YouTube video and out on the index page, it tells you all the stuff. What it is, samson-jeff.com, ROS Agriculture, and it shows you this directory structure. This just some part out of my website. I set all this stuff up, and if you look here, it says lawn tractor meeting. If you look at the bottom, it says lawn tractor meeting notes.htm. That's the if I click on that one, that shows the this is the HTML version of do this. That's the HTML version of the index of the stuff that we're doing right now. And then I've got the older one. If we back up and look at it, stop it. And then the other one is the original text-based one that looks like that, which was it was hard to read, and you couldn't click on the link. So I made that HTML version out of that. I made a little converter that converts that across. And then here's a mini tractor presentation. That's just some stuff I did one time that I was going to talk about here. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it's just a bunch of text-based stuff saying here's various videos that point to my stuff for my lawn tractor or for my mini tractor that I built. And that's what that file is. Let's back up, see what else is in here. So that anyway, down to this README talks about the original ROS Agriculture index, and then I was doing each one of these is a newer date. Then you get out to the final one here, and it again is one of those text-based files, and the README file tells you what to do with this and how to use it. And then so the one says Slack exports, and right now this is going to be move stuff around, but this is where the stuff's at the moment. And if I look at lawn tractor automation is where I uploaded that. That's that archive zip file that it is created. And I think if I click on it, it's going to say open an archive manager or something. Oh, it's trying to download it to my computer. So that's not what I wanted to do, I guess. Let's go back to where I was at here. So if we open, say, one of these particular files, I'm going to move these files too, but once I get this converted, this is what it's going to look like. This will come up here. It's just that this is the original one that didn't have any images or files in it. And somewhere, if you look, it'll say, "Oh, these are too old. You can't view them." I was trying to think if I can quickly find a message. Well, this one does have an image in it. So let's see, what was the deal? Why did that work? I don't know, but what if I can get the latest backup to work, then it'll convert it and it'll have all the images and stuff in here, and everybody will be happier. But I'll have to play with that and see if I can get around to that. So anyway, that's where the stuff's at. And um, as I say, if I go look at, say, for instance, here's the Slack export, go up one level, and meeting notes index. So if you go on see the index here, this is what's on the bottom of your video, and down here's the links to the index. Here's the HTML index. Here's the text-based index, and here's the stuff about the ROS Agriculture. It's all out in that same directory that samson-jeff.com. ROS Agriculture is where all the stuff is stored. So that's where you can find it. Look at the bottom of the videos, or come to this index, and it tells you here where it's at. And see, I had no way to get to this without having to dig for it. So since I'm on this computer, it doesn't have all this stuff. So it wasn't as easy as just clicking on a link to get there. And here it says, here's the Slack channel. And again, this is on the bottom of every video that we put out.
Cool.
Yeah, I've started at the bottom because as I went, I started adding more and more links on. So clear at the top, it doesn't have quite as many links, but that's to answer your question. That's where it's at, and that's how you can get to it. And hopefully that'll appease anybody that's just slightly curious. So that's it, I guess.
Thanks for going through that. I think that's always a good reminder, and hopefully the extract you got from Slack will make it easier to deal with. On my side, I'm going to stop your sharing. Okay,
I just stopped it.
good deal. Let's see. Couple of things on my end. I have something that looks like this stepper motor on one end. I think it's a NEMA 11. I know that doesn't say the sort of the size of the, well, I think that 11 only refers to the size of the screws, but so I have something like this with a stepper motor on one and a linear rail in the middle. The reason I was messing around with that is my throttle at the moment is physically wired to a certain speed. My hydrostatic transmission is controlled by a servo with an arm that is, let's just say it's got a mean time to failure of probably half a season, because the way the shaft is fastened to the control arm, um, it sort of eats into the shaft ultimately. And so I need a better solution for my hydrostatic transmission control. So I was wanting to learn a little bit more about these stepper motors and something like this linear rail. I could just go get a linear actuator, but I thought this might be a little bit more precise. So been messing around with that. Mine, I know this is a close up, so it's like, whoa, back up. Um, I was trying to get a picture of this so I could do a Google search on that image to see if anybody had dealt with this one specifically, because I've got it all hooked up. And to hook it up, I needed to use, well, I have this TB6600 uh, stepper driver. Um, and so I've got it all hooked up and it works. I've got 20 volts going into it because what I had handy was an old computer power supply that I just fed into it. But it is getting super hot. And by super hot, I mean I pulled out my little gun thing with the thermal detection, like reads the temperature of stuff that you point at it, and it's like 130-ish degrees, and then that heat transmits all the way up and down. This is all metal in it, so the whole thing is hot. I'm like, whoa, that doesn't seem right. Um, so I know Jeff's got some comments on that, but that's as far as I've gotten with that. I figured out, hooking up the wiring, and I can drive it with an Arduino Uno, and it's really pretty darn precise, and the speed would be fine for either, I think, my transmission or my um, throttle control. But I'm hesitant to keep testing it because I don't want to burn it up. So Jeff asked about a potentiometer on this stepper motor driver, and um, there's some dip switches to control a few things, but I didn't see anything in there about current. So tell me what you want to tell me about these darn things.
I would say pull up that Amazon listing that you just had, or whatever that was, so we get a better picture, and zoom in on one, maybe get that flat, about the fourth one where it's got the flat image. The down at the bottom there, it's got next one to the right. That one. Okay, zoom in on that one. So just so we can see what it's saying there. So your switch settings, current amps, right at the bottom. What's that say? So right there, you can control how many amps you're going to put through your motor, and that directly controls how hot the thing gets. So typically they'll put like a potentiometer on there. You can run the potentiometer up and down to give you how much current you want. So take your stepper motor, and it'll say on it, it'll say voltage and current, and set your current on here either at or below what the motor says. So go back to a picture of your motor, and I
I'm sure it says exactly what I needed to say right there.
says T6X6-50. Yeah, it doesn't really. Do you have a listing for that one, or is that
That's
something that
why
came
I
out of the
took.
trash?
No, I haven't been able to find one specifically for this. I think I got this off AliExpress. Um, so yes, I was trying to find a data sheet on this to see what sort of current it had. There was another one on Amazon that
So your quickest thing you could do is just go to your dip switches and set it down to say half an amp of current, and see
cools
if it
down. Yeah,
yeah cools down, because it. Well, first of all, look at your switch settings right now and see what it's set at. See
for
what.
those three, I'm on, off, off. So it's you know 2 amps.
So you can back that off to a fourth of the current, and that looks like a fairly small motor, so it's probably a fairly small current to start with. So start off and just set it down to the lowest current setting you got, and that'll help with the heat. And then you have to decide, does it have enough torque at that current? And since it's got the worm gear drive on, it's probably gonna have plenty of torque by doing that. So, but that's what you got to do.
Thanks for that. Um,
And you were talking about the voltages. It said something about 9 to 24 volts or whatever, 9 to 42 volts. Well, it turns out this is what's called a chopper driver, and it takes the voltage you put in, and it will does like a PWM coming out, and it will drive whatever amount of current you got the thing set at. So if you have it set at 2 amps, it's going to take it's going to drive the motor. It's going to push 2 amps through that motor regardless, because the motors are usually be rated at a voltage and a current. But by using this kind of driver, it doesn't care what the voltage is. It's gonna shove whatever it takes through that motor to get that amount of current. And that way, somehow they run better that way. So if you're doing as opposed to just having a voltage and turn the windings on and off, something about rise time on the inductors or something. But this type of driver works much better than just take like a L298, the cheap little $2 boards, and hook it up to a stepper motor. Those will work, but you can't run the motor very fast, and you don't have a lot of options on. So it's just a fancy way to do that. And you by looking at this, you can hook it up to any size motor you got, because you can push up to 3.5 amps through your motor. So it could run some pretty big motors, but you just want to match the current to whatever the motor is. Or in your case, if it gets hot, back the current off and see if it still works.
Thanks for that. And so if you were thinking about, moving this to production, I mean, this is a sort of a bulky thing. You would stick with this stepper motor as opposed to something else.
I personally wouldn't use a stepper motor at all, but it will indeed work, because as you say, whether the motor's moving or not, it's taking maximum amount of power just to sit there and hold it. So that's one reason I wouldn't use a stepper motor. The other problem you can have is just have some kind of a limit switch input on it. So when you start it up, you can say home it, and it'll go all the way to end and stop. Because on a stepper motor,
No.
you don't know what position you're in. So what some people do is they'll just ram it up against a hard stop and just keep going until the thing stops. Or what you could do is put an extra switch on your system somewhere, say whatever the far end or the close end, and then in your software you say, okay, start stepping the motor until that switch turns on or turns off, whatever you get that set up to. What's that? Go up a little bit. I'm gonna see what your pins are labeled there. Enable, direction, pulse. Oh, that's the outputs to the. No, what are they?
It's to
Those
change the
those are
pulse per revolution.
pulse 5 volts. Okay, enable. So you don't really have you don't give it commands. You just simply have a pulse, a direction, and a pulse to make the thing move. Is that right?
Yeah, the Arduino is hooked up to dir minus and pull minus, and the library is written such that you change those values. I'm assuming it's a PWM, if not PWM like signal. And that gives you forward, reverse, speed, and it will go to home, um, wherever you set home, which is variable. But this stepper driver doesn't have a, return to home on power. It's just going to keep it wherever it's at when it starts. So it's software. Everything needs to be software controlled, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to put something on there to detect one end or the other. Go to the motor itself on that slide and put like a switch or something on there. And then in your software in your Arduino, simply say, when you power the thing up, enable the stepper motor and start stepping until that switch activates. And then you've got a reference point. You know you're at position 0 at that point, and then you can go ahead and run it from there to do whatever you want.
Yeah, one of
Sometimes,
this.
sometimes those have a switch that says home the thing, and it will go to a specific spot, either a certain number of steps or um, it may have a switch input, limit switch, and it just simply runs it to the limit switch and stops. So you just have to emulate that yourself to make that happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. There is a reverse detection switch on the Cub Cadet. I mean, I'm sure it's there for safety. So I could use that as the startup process, go back and touch the reverse switch and then come up to neutral.
Yeah, it actually, so the reverse switch is not at the full extreme, but that'll still work because it's a known position. So from that position, you're gonna have plus and minus so many steps to make the thing work. So yeah, you could use that. That would work. As long as you trust
Anyway,
it, as long as you trust that switch, which I see no reason why you shouldn't, but can you scroll up the top of this page just so we can see what the title, okay, stepper motor driver, blah, 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 blah. Again, it's the case of you got that big giant URL that you wouldn't be able to detect from that but by seeing this, if you search for stepper motor TB 6600 stepper driver, it probably bring this page up if anybody wanted to look at this.
the other thing, let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, I have, I guess it's just an advertisement for backing stuff up. I remember vaguely having to rebuild my laptop. It was in the winter, so November, December timeframe that runs on the tractor. I was out last week trying to do a test, and after I'd gotten my lithium battery charged and got everything fired up, uh, and the software side didn't run, and I was getting I don't have the errors here handy, but anyway, all of the UDEV statements that I had set up, or UDEV rules that I'd set up, didn't seem to be working. So it wasn't seeing the IMU, wasn't seeing uh, the GPS, and bottom line is, in the rebuild process, I had somehow left out the UDEV rules. So now I've added those back in, and I'm ready to go back out and try to do some testing. So that's where I'm at. I thought I had the UDEV rules in my GitHub, but evidently I didn't. So now I have to put those in there and have some sort of reminder to myself that if I rebuild it, I need to pull those UDEV rules and put them in the BTC folder. So that's it. That's where I'm at.
Back to your comments, you were saying you're driving the like step minus and direction minus. Do you know what that plus and minus means on those?
Haven't a clue. I just
Because
know
what
that the
I believe what it means is if you want, you can put a differential input into that. So if you've got a system that has noise in your system, you can put a differential driver at your microcontroller and then run a twisted pair over to your device. So it's got the plus and minus inputs. And from what you're doing right now, it could be you could either hook up to the dir plus or the dir minus, and that might just be one's inverted from the other. So if you wanted to quickly change the direction, you can move the wires around. But typically, if you've got two like that, I would use the plus inputs on both. And if it doesn't work, then you might have to either tie the minus either to tie it high or tie it low just to get the thing to run. But that's why they have a plus and minus on that. Because on the
yeah,
inputs, if you want, if you have differential signals available, you can hook them both up. And that way it needs one to be high and one to be low, and then switches back and forth. And that way that gets around any noise in your system is why they supplied you with that.
yeah, the particular example that I was following, it took those three um, and has you connect to 5 volts, and then it uses those. Is there any benefit that So again, what might be the benefit of using the plus instead of the minus?
I was just thinking one might be inverted from the other one, but since you're running from a microcontroller, you can program it any way you want, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, that I just wanted to point out that's why they have a plus and a minus on there. And if they give you an example where they tied some of them to 5 volts and then signaled the other one, if that, if they made it work and you can make it work, that should work out for you.
Yeah, I'm going to hope that your solution of reducing the current is going to resolve the heat issue. Um, um, that's a pretty easy fix. Well, it's a tremendously easy fix.
And keep in mind, stepper motors will just run warm to start with, but you might be pushing it really hard, so that maybe that's why it's getting so hot.
That's what I've got for the recording today.
Okay, I haven't thought of anything else, so I guess we'll just move on.